This is the DJI Neo. DJI sent this to me after I gave them £300 for the Fly More combo. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about my first impressions, who I think it's for, some of the things that I don't think are so good about it, but why I still bought it. And stick around to the end, especially if you're new to flying drones, because I have one major concern about this very accessible little gadget. I've been flying drones and the odd FPV for a good couple of years now. And being a bit of a tech head, I was kind of intrigued by this and slightly skeptical. It's marketed as a vlogging drone and you can use it without a controller, although it is quite useful to still have a smartphone because you have to download the DJI Fly app to actually activate it. In its quick shots automated mode, you simply point it towards your face and then with this button on top you select which quick shot action you want it to take. So it can do various different modes. Follow mode, which is when it obviously follows you. Droney, which is where the drone flies up and back from you. Circle, which is also known as orbit. Rocket, where it shoots straight up. Spotlight, where the drone stays in one place but tracks where you are, and then direction mode, where you can set the drone out in front of you. It'll carry on following in front of you and flying backwards. Once it's finished taking that quick shot, it flies back towards you and you simply put your hand underneath and it lands in the palm of your hand. And because it's got these prop guards on it, you don't need to worry about the fact that you might get your fingers chopped off. Unless you've got very small fingers, and I would suggest probably keep people that have got very small fingers away from it. Now obviously one thing you have to remember is that this doesn't have any obstacle avoidance. So when you're setting up your quick shot, do make sure that there's no trees or lamp posts or people around that it's going to crash into. That said, this is a very robust little drone. I've crashed this on more times than I'd like to admit. But there's hardly a scratch on it. And if you fly it into someone, well, this happens. That did it. A little bit damp. It was more of a shock than actually hurting or anything. So unless you aim for the eyes or something, you're very unlikely to actually injure anyone with this. It's very light. So with all of these quick shots, you can do that all without a controller. So it's great for grabbing the odd quick shot when you're on holiday. Oh, that's why they're called quick shots. For me, the follow me feature is really useful. As you may have seen in my other videos, I do enjoy talking to the drone camera whilst I'm walking along. So I was very happy to check out that mode. And as far as how it tracks you, it's pretty clever. It's using a new AI algorithm which makes it really hard for you to actually lose the drone. I think it's the algorithm that's the precursor to what is or was or will be in the T1000.
The CPU from the first Terminator.
Which is a bit scary. Now if you've got the DJI app on your phone, then you can use the phone itself to record your voice directly to the drone. And there's some clever noise cancellation as well, which takes out the rather high-pitched whine. So with direction track, the drone is staying in front of me. And if I start moving direction slightly, it moves, albeit slightly off to an angle, just in front of me again. Now, what you're hearing at the moment is the noise-cancelled audio through my phone that's being recorded onto the drone. I'm also recording on my DJI Mic 2, and this is the difference. So, you can hear me now on my DJI Mic 2. Probably is very slightly better audio quality than this, but if I switch back now, this isn't bad. There's a lamppost there. That's close. Right, so I'd better go and rescue my camera before someone nicks it. So you can see that's quite good for just giving a message to people when you're posting on social media, or when you're taking a bit of a snap, just saying where you are and when you are. Now, if you want to alter some of the parameters of these quick shots, you can do that in the DJI Fly app. So for example, the droney is set at a default of 2 meters away, but you can go up to about 10 meters, I think. Similarly with the circle, you can change that from 2 meters to 10 meters, and there are various other options with the different modes that you can change. This mode, which defaults to direction mode, can also be changed in the app to helix or boomerang. I think helix or boomerang are probably some of the least popular modes, and which is why DJI assigned them there. Any of that customization that you do in your quick shots is remembered by the drone, even if you power it off and take out the battery. You can also control the drone in a variety of manual ways as well. Starting off with the DJI Fly app, that provides you with a couple of virtual joysticks. However, I would say that they're a little bit laggy and a bit jerky, so they're probably best for setting up a shot for a photograph or something. You can attach your phone to the DJI RCN3, which is a controller that uses OcuSync 4. So rather than using Wi-Fi from your phone, which has a range of about 20 or 30 meters, this little thing has a range of about 7 kilometers. Not that of course you would be flying that far, as in most territories flying beyond visual line of sight is against the law. But OcuSync 4 is more about penetration. So if you have some trees around and you fly behind one briefly, with OcuSync 4 it should maintain a connection a lot better than with previous versions. Bloody trees. That got him. And with the recent update on the DJI RC2, you can fly the Neo with this as well, which is brilliant and really works very well. So if you've already got a Mini 4 Pro or Air 3, there's not really any need to get this. So don't bother too much with the Fly More combo. Just get the drone on its own and a couple of batteries and possibly the battery charging bay. I found out about the update on this just after my Fly More combo had shipped. Brilliant. Oh, one thing with this controller and the RC2 is that you can actually tap into the expo settings within the drone. So that helps you just tune the way the drone flies to how you want to fly it. I was actually quite surprised at seeing that. If you already own the Goggles 3, then the Neo is compatible with this as well, which is great because the Neo is kind of indestructible to a certain extent. But if you want to practice your FPV before going with the Avata 2, then this is probably a good first step into manual FPV. It's also compatible with the DJI RC Motion 3, so you can have that FPV experience without the stress of doing it manually. But for those of you that want to go down the full manual route, the DJI FPV Remote Controller 3 is also compatible. With this, I can practice and just get a bit of a feel for FPV flight in manual mode. It's not the same, but it's getting me there. Oh, and if you want to see that video of me going full manual FPV with the DJI Neo and potentially having a disaster, then of course subscribe to the channel and you can be one of the first people to see that go horribly wrong. While you're at it, if you are enjoying this, could you leave a like please? And if you're not enjoying it, why are you wasting your time watching this? So you've got all of these different options to connect to this little drone. What a versatile little buff thing. So let's talk specs, shall we? The DJI Neo weighs in at 135 grams. It's this big. It's not very big. How do I give you a sense of scale? Here's my mug. No, that's no good. That's an oversized mug. This is a packet of Walker's Crisps, or as you say in the US, Lay's. And here's the DJI Neo. So it's about the same as a packet of crisps or chips. Well, that one later. As far as the speed it goes is concerned, it has a range of 6 meters per second in normal mode, going up to 16 meters per second in manual mode. But you'll only achieve that 16 meters per second if you're using this and the goggles. In sports mode, it goes 8 meters per second. The difference between sports mode and normal mode on most drones, such as the DJI Mini 4 Pro, is that in sports mode, the obstacle avoidance is switched off. As this doesn't have obstacle avoidance, you might as well stick it in sports mode unless you're trying to get some cinematic footage, and I'll come on to that in a bit. The internal storage on this is 22 gigabytes, which gives you about enough for 40 minutes worth of 4K 30 frames per second video, or about an hour of 1080p. The camera is a fixed f2.8 with a 1/2 sensor and can shoot in 4K at 30 frames per second and 1080p at 30, 50 or 60 frames per second. The battery lasts for about 18 minutes if you take these little prop guards off, but I wouldn't bother doing that because they really do save you in a crash. So about 17 minutes with the prop guards on. Okay, I'll say this up front. If you're expecting fantastic, buttery smooth drone video from this little thing, then I'm afraid you're going to be sorely disappointed. Whilst the DJI Mini 4 Pro has a 3-axis gimbal to steady out the footage, the DJI Neo, just like its bigger brother, the Avata 2, has a 1-axis gimbal and uses electronic image stabilization to stabilize the footage. Now the sensor is a 5K sensor. To utilize the electronic image stabilization, it has to crop down to 4K. But that does mean that you are getting a true 4K picture out of it. It has a wind resistance of 8 meters per second. And when you compare that to the DJI Mini 4 Pro, which has a wind resistance of 10.7 meters per second, or the incredible Air 3 at 12 meters per second, you're not going to be wanting to use this in high wind. So the best time to fly it is on a very calm day.
No wind. Of course there's no bloody wind.
And then we come on to the video shooting modes. Now the best and possibly most confusing way to describe this is in terms of mainstream cameras. If you consider the Mini 4 Pro to be the equivalent of a mid-range mirrorless camera such as the Sony Alpha 6700, then the Neo is a bit more like your point and shoot type camera. It doesn't have hyperlapses, it doesn't have waypoints, it doesn't have slow-mo, it doesn't have different colour profiles such as HLG or log shooting. So really what you get out of the camera from this is what you have to work with. With the controller you can change the ISO and the shutter speed, but obviously with a fixed f2.8 you can't change the aperture on it. I expect there will be some ND filters coming out fairly soon for it. I'm looking at you, Freewell. So this is squarely aimed at social media. Quick shooting with little messing around in post-production, so that you can just quickly upload it to Instagram, TikTok, FaceFriend, and YouTube Shorts. YouTube? But unlike the Mini 4 Pro, it doesn't have a vertical shooting mode, which is weird because it's been marketed for vloggers and social media types. That said, I'm sure there'll be a firmware update soon which will enable a cropped vertical shooting mode, just as they do with the DJI Air 3. So if it's cropped, it's going to be a lower resolution, but if that's going to be used on social media, it'll barely be noticeable. That said, this is a great ultra portable, very user-friendly little drone, and it'll be great for taking on holiday or taking a few snaps when you're on a trip or something. But if you want that buttery smooth B-roll type drone footage, then get yourself a Mini 4 Pro or an Air 3. If you think it's too expensive, then just eat beans on toast for a few months. And you won't be going out on that diet anyway because no one will want to socialise with you. Either that or go back to school, get some more qualifications and a better job that pays more. You could ask your parents for the money, I suppose, but then again, do you want to be in financial debt as well as emotional debt to them? Why am I saying that? I'm not your therapist. Now, I said that I'd go over some of the things that I think could be better with this. Firstly, there's the fact that it's a bit of a crap camera and sensor, really. But what do you expect for something this small? It doesn't handle wind that well, so eventually that electronic image stabilization is going to kind of give up. It's only got 22 gigabytes of onboard storage and there's no way to expand that, so there's no support for SD cards. If you're on a long trip and take a lot of quick shots, you could be filling up that 22 gigabytes fairly fast, so you will need to remember to be able to offload that somehow at some point. The Wi-Fi connection to your phone has a very limited range. It says on the specs on the website up to 50 meters. A few other people have said this is more like 20 to 30 meters. As I said, no vertical shooting. That doesn't matter too much to me because I'm over 35. But for someone of a younger age, they may need that because they have no taste. And no obstacle avoidance, which again, if you've seen some of my earlier videos, is a real risk. So sorry, back to follow me mode and the... Oh! Oh dear. If you do crash it, and you will, don't worry too much, it is pretty robust. It's 135 grams and doesn't fly very fast, so it's not going to build up a huge amount of momentum. So you're unlikely to break it unless you're really unlucky. Now, some people complain about the 18 minutes flight time, but when you see how small this is, 18 minutes is actually pretty good. And if a lot of people are just using this for quick shots and then switching it off, it's going to last quite a few quick shots, probably about 20 or so. As anyone who's watched my channel before knows, I love my drones and technology and photography. So when this came about, I was actually quite excited about it. I wasn't too worried that it wouldn't have the best picture quality. You have to remember, I come from a time before the internet was a thing. Something like this, let alone smartphones, is just amazing to me. Kind of a bit of a Neanderthal. With the amount of technology packed into this tiny package and the myriad ways you can connect to it, I just had to have it. It has been brilliant fun over the past couple of days experimenting with all the different ways to fly this little drone. The other reason I got it, well, that's kind of the elephant in the room, isn't it? It's to make more content for you guys. Please make sure you've liked the video. With all of the shortcomings, what do you expect for 169 quid or $200? And this is astounding what it can do for that price and offers really, really good value for money. And it's expandable as well. So if you get one of these and decide, I want to do a bit more in the drone hobby, then you can get yourself a controller. You might get another drone, but you want to fly with this controller as well. Or you might want to get into FPV, so you get the goggles and then you get the DJI Remote 3. So there's lots that can be done with it, and it's a brilliant gateway drug to drones. So whilst the video quality may leave a little to be desired, and the photo quality is okay, as long as you don't zoom in too much, this is still a little packet of fun. And it's great for anyone just starting off in the hobby, or even for children like me that just wants to play around. I got the DJI Neo Fly More combo. In that, you get obviously the drone, and you get 2 extra batteries and a charging hub, a couple of spare propellers, and a couple of cables. Now, DJI are still insisting on providing this terrible screwdriver which is used for changing the props when you've broken them. Get this one instead. For the charging hub, you'll need to get yourself a USB-C power adapter that's at least 65 watts. You could use your phone charger or a slightly less powerful adapter, but you will be sat there for ages waiting for the batteries to charge. With 65 watts, 3 batteries will charge simultaneously in about an hour. Oh, and I almost forgot, if there are any products in this video that you're interested in purchasing, do take a look in the description below. There are my affiliate links there, and if you buy through those, then it costs no more to you, but gives a few pennies to the channel to keep it going. So now on to my big concern. A fantastic little drone like this offers an amazing opportunity for an introduction into the drone hobby and really brings down the price of entry to it. I expect this is going to sell like hotcakes over Christmas. Sorry, the holidays or Winterval or whatever I'm meant to call it. And there are going to be a lot of people out there that are going to just get this out and start flying it around without knowing that there are some regulations and flight restrictions for flying these. Despite this being almost half the weight of the DJI Mini 4 Pro, it's still subject to the same rules and regulations of any other sub 250 gram drone. Hopefully that'll change sometime soon because, as you've seen, there's very little damage that this can do. But in the meantime, you still have to abide by the law. If you're one of those people, go and watch this video here, please. More deep dive videos coming soon, and there may already be one here. If there isn't, it's either because I haven't made one yet, or this video's done so poorly that I just can't be arsed. Bye.